Justice League Dark number 8, written by Peter Milligan, art by Daniel Sempier. This is part 3 of the Rise of the Vampires crossover series, and last issue we left off in I, Vampire with Mary joining the side of good, Xanadu going to talk to the big crystal Buddhist thing, and Constantine and Deadman going to get Andrew Bennett from the land of the dead. I think that basically sums it all up. So this issue picks up with Boston and Constantine going to see Andrew in Purgatory. And he's just sitting there chilling, minding his own business. And they're like, hey, buddy, we need you to come back because it's really bad out there and the world's going to end. And he's like, I'm sorry, but I have no more fight left in me. Also, a lot of what is happening up there is kind of my fault, so maybe this is like my punishment. And they're like, cool, but that's dumb, so you need to come with us. And he's like, sorry, no. So Andrew's off the table already. Then we cut back to Xanadu, who's talking to the big crystal Buddhist thing, and apparently he's in charge of how magic power is like split or something. And she's basically saying, hey, Kane is currently drawing on all the magic power. I need you to take it away from him and put it into someone more worthy. And the Buddhist thing is like, are you sure? People are going to really hate that. And she's like, yeah, let him deal with it. So they say something about the winds of change or whatever, and it doesn't result in anything immediately. But Kane can feel that the magic is kind of being pulled from him, so he is very, very upset about that. Then we cut back to the rooftop where pretty much all the action is happening. And Tig and John from I, Vampire are arguing about like how much they hate this. And then for some reason Shade starts going through like a little bit of a mental breakdown because he's just really upset about all this stuff going on and he can't control his M-Vest anymore. And so we get the backstory of Shade like right here. Like Zatanna's like, hey, what's happening with Shade? What's his deal, Xanadu? And Xanadu's like, well, let me tell you. And basically it's just that he he accidentally killed his girlfriend at the time with his M-Vest, and he feels a lot of guilt about it, and as such he's kind of a little bit crazy. So that's the gist of it. But regardless, at this point in the fight, he basically is like, I can't keep doing this. I'm just going to let go now. Goodbye, everybody. And he teleports out to what he calls the area of madness. And it's just this creepy, weird-looking psychobabble zone. And in there, he meets up with his old girlfriend, and she's like, hey, honey, I'm real. I'm real in here. Are you going to go back to your team? And he's like, you know what? I don't think so. I think I'm here for good. And they walk off into the equivalent of the sunset. And then Xanadu's back on Earth being like, goodbye, Shade. So I genuinely think this is the end of Shade in this book, which is very strange. Like, they just did this, and it's like, all right. In the middle of an event, he's just walking off into the sunset. Anyway, back to the actual vampire stuff. Zatanna's like, all right, screw this. Let's go fight Kane, because I'm not going down without a fight. And Mary's like, oh, yeah, no, your magic is failing. Her magic is already pretty much gone. And you pretty much are just saying you want me to go fight him. And she's like, well, fine, whatever. So they all hitch a ride, go out to fight Kane. He literally just immediately blasts them away. Like, no problem. And Zatanna teleports out to some park on the outskirts of town, to which Kane and all of his vampires immediately make their way over to, like, without waiting at all. As they're out at this park, Constantine opens back up the portal from Purgatory, and he pops out, and he's like, hey, no good, we couldn't get him back, so this is kind of our last stand. And as such, all the vampires arrive on them. We get a little glimpse that Tig and John are like, wow, all the vampires just left all at once, I wonder where they're going. And then we see, in the park, finally that winds of change thing happens, and some magic is being all poured into one spot. For some reason, we focus on Batman for all of like one panel. And then we see that the winds are all forming and a dust is making Andrew Bennett. He has come back to life and he is here to fight Kane. So yeah, that's part 3. It's good. It's fine. Why did we do that shade detour? That felt like really out of nowhere. Especially because, like, I want to see if I can find the exact word she uses here. Um, my God, what's happening to him? And then Xanadu says some stuff, and then he's like, Zatanna's like, you mean Kathy? What's the story there? And then we get into the story there, and it's like, do we really need to do this right now, guys? There are vampires all around. Regardless, yeah, no, it just kind of felt like the only thing that needed to happen this issue was Xanadu needed to do her thing with the Crystal Buddhist guy, and Constantine and Boston need to find out that Andrew didn't want to come back. And then at the end, Andrew had to come back. So, really, all of the plot of this book was more or less resolved in about 4 pages of content because the Boston stuff and Deadman, or Boston, Brand, and Constantine all happens in 3 pages, and then Xanadu stuff happens in one. So, like, the rest of this kind of just felt like filler for the sake of, oh, well, it's a crossover issue, so it technically has to fall into the story. But yeah, the rest of it didn't really feel that necessary. As such, though, it is still a very good story it's being told. I like where we're leading off in terms of what's coming up next issue. It just happens to be that this particular issue doesn't feel as strong. Also, maybe this is personally how I feel about Andrea Sorrentino's art, but seeing Andrew drawn in anything but that moody, dark style really just takes all the fun out of him. Like, seeing him there in Purgatory, also, he's human, I suppose, which is half of it, but he's just, I don't know. He loses his coolness for me. So, overall, though, I am going to give this a 7.5. I do think it's still good. I do think it's still very good. But it is definitely the more of the, okay, this is just keeping pace until we can get to the finale next issue. So, whatever, that's fine. But it's still hanging in there, and part 4 is, of course, in the issue number 8 of I, Vampire.